Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Vonnie. This is episode 89, and we revisit the most talked about dysfunctional family drama since your last Thanksgiving get-together, House of the Dragon. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back. It's good to see you all. Look, I got mostly a voice back. It's been a couple weeks. My voice is mostly recovered. It's still kind of bad.
What sort of wizardry did you use to get it back to full health?
Milk of the poppy.
Milk of the poppy.
Yeah, I'm now missing an eye, coincidentally. No, it's been just a slow recovery. I was actually sick kind of again on last week or early this week and was struggling. Kind of called in the teledoctor, over the phone, and the doctor was Hani Yusuf. I don't even know if it was MD. It was just Hani Yusuf on the email, and Dr. Hani Yusuf sent me some prescription antibiotics, so that seemed to help a little bit. Kind of upset.
What do you
my
do on
stomach.
that call? You just like open your mouth up wide and put it right in front of the camera on your computer?
No, it was
Just
actually
like, here are my tonsils.
the little system said you had the option of video call or phone call, and it said phone call recommended. So I hit phone call, and so he just gave me a call. We talked. He was like, "Okay, sounds like we should do some antibiotics." I said, "Okay," and he sent him in, and that was it. It was
Why didn't you just
maybe
go to the doctor?
maybe a 3-minute conversation with Hani Yusuf, maybe MD. I don't even know.
Why
could've
did you
just
Who
been
get
is
Hani.
Honey?
I
Honey
don't
is
know.
just somebody in a call center
It could be.
halfway across the world.
Who knows? But his prescription went through. So
Why didn't you just go to the doctor?
Oh yeah, so I tried to go to my doctor, like my regular doctor, but they were like busy, and they were like, "We don't got appointments for you." So I was like, "Okay, fine." And then I was like, "Well, let me just call the telemedicine doctor that I get through work," and then that worked. So here we are. Oh, and my wife's a doctor, but she doesn't like to be my doctor because she feels like that's I don't know what it is, conflict of interest, something like that, unethical. So she
Wait,
doesn't. She tries
like-
not to be my doctor.
Don't doctors also have some sort of oath where they just got to help people? Like when somebody's like,
No.
"Is there a doctor in the house?" Or she's like, "Well, I was in the audience too, so maybe it's a conflict of interest."
Yeah, I mean, if it was an emergency, she would doctor. But if it's not an emergency, she's trying not. She's
It's
trying.
an
not to.
emergency. Her husband needs to sound good for this damn show. That is
All right.
putting a roof over your head.
Yeah, it sounds
Well,
like a waste of just a
not
medical
exactly.
professional in the home. Like, she just say, "Hey, I'm not on the clock, babe." Like,
Well, her
I'm not at
professional
work right
opinion
now.
was hey, can you try and get an appointment today and see a doctor because it's been 3 weeks you've been sick and it's probably too long or something.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said, go to the damn doctor.
Yeah, but she said go to the doctor also, even though she is a doctor. It's
So
confusing.
you live with a doctor and got a doctor you go to, and you decided I'm gonna call somebody.
Well, no, I tried to go to my doctor. But my
You
doctor
tried,
was like,
yes.
"I'm too busy. I can't
There's
see you
other
right now."
doctors.
I
know you,
and
you
the
live
doctor-
in Texas. You don't live in Antarctica.
The doctor, I was like, "Can I see anybody in the office?" They were like, "No, we don't have appointments till tomorrow." And I was like, "Well, guess I'm not seeing you then." And then I called the call center, and
So you
Hani
gave
Yusuf,
up
MD,
immediately.
picked up. Well,
You
no,
didn't even
I
consider
mean,
there's other doctors' offices that exist. That
I
wasn't
mean,
even
I'm
like a
what's the point of rolling up to a random doctor? I might as well just call the telemedicine doctor then.
because Brian, are you hearing this man right now?
Phone
Am I-
doctor.
Am
Yeah.
I
Like,
tripping?
I'll just go to the phone doctor.
Am
Phone
I-
doctor, Honey Yusuf, MD, question mark?
Question mark.
Yeah, and then you
Unclear.
keep emphasizing the question mark. I'm like, all the more reason you should have went to another damn doctor.
I mean,
I've had medical situations. Oh, I ain't got a doctor I can go to. Cool. I'm gonna look up some other ones. Hey, y'all take my insurance. All right, I'm pulling up. You
but that's what I did. I just didn't have to leave my house because I felt like poop. So I got to do it over the phone.
I think
Honey
that
Yusuf.
at some point like your wife doctor also has to come into play here. I mean,
Yeah.
I think she is partially culpable for this.
There's L's across the
situation.
board in this right now. I'm just like, I'm mad at lots of people.
A lot of wrong
I'll let her know.
decisions, just like in House of the Dragon.
I'll let her know that you don't believe it. That you don't believe in her doctoring. Performance here.
I never said all
She
that.
might also be MD question mark.
No, I was at the graduation. It was real. It was real.
Hey man,
They called her name and everything. All right.
Wesley, I got receipts.
All right. Well, this episode we're going to talk about House of the Dragon season 1, specifically mostly about the final, and then kind of wrapping up and recapping what we thought was important about this, things we noticed, and things that we liked, or maybe even didn't like about this sort of prequel, show to Game of Thrones, which was certainly the societal, I don't even know what to call it, water cooler. Just
We don't have
Nobody
water
can escape it.
coolers.
We need Mike to use the word zeitgeist.
yeah. I mean, it
It's a very
dominated.
zeitgeisty show.
It dominated pop culture. House of the Dragon, less so. More than any other show in recent times, in the past few years, but certainly not quite the cultural impact that Game of Thrones had. That's not what we're here to talk about, though. We're going to talk about the end of season 1. It was a ride. There were quite a few moments, let's call them. There was a whole lot of like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. How did you feel about this specific episode and this specific finale? Before we get into all the deep divey stuff and, long-term things, just keep it to episode 10. I don't even know the name of the episode. What did you think? Brian, how did you feel? What was going on? Tell us.
It was an interesting episode. The penultimate episode, we got the high towers, right? It was all focused on Alicent and what they were doing in response to Viserys dying and moving quickly to take control of the crown. So in this episode, we get the reverse shot, the flip side of that, which is all about Rhaenyra's side of this conflict and what they're going to do in response to the crown being taken away from her. And so we're in Dragonstone the entire time. Rhaenys shows up, gives her the news, and immediately their house springs into action. You see Daemon at the head of the boardroom, in the war room or whatever, and seeing that really cool map table of Westeros, by the way.
Oh, that was amazing.
Which was like,
what a set piece.
I'm ordering that on Etsy right now.
That table could light up. Like
where do I get the
OG
coals
show?
for the fire to light it up? Yeah. I mean, incredible. Well, whoever thought of that, chef's kiss to you. So we, Damon's doing his like, I'm prepping for war. I'm pent up with so much toxicity and bloodlust. I want to get going. This is my time, right? Like Daemon is made for this moment. So all of that was, I think, really fascinating. But the kind of the best part about it was that Rhaenyra seemed to be hesitant and resistant to all of that knee-jerk reaction towards fighting, towards chopping off heads and taking names, right? Suddenly she goes into Viserys mode and is talking about keeping peace in the realm and, really functionally being a queen, which is also part of the reason why certain people gravitate towards her. And, I think that's a very, very interesting dynamic. But of course, we know in Westeros, people with a level head who are interested in the greater good
Lose their
do
heads.
not turn out so good. Yeah. Ned Stark looking at you. So I think, unfortunately, we might be setting ourselves up for a very poor end for Rhaenyra and her ilk. And then the very last scene of episode 10 is a dragon battle. And what
Sunset battle. If I go up and punch somebody's kid in the face, can I say, yeah, I got into a fight? Because that's
kind of what
like.
happened.
That was very much like, oh, okay, we need weight classes.
I mean,
this is why there's weight classes in boxing, kids.
I mean, like that whole sequence. You sort of knew it was going to happen. Aemon, who's eye patchy? Is it Aemon?
Aemon.
Aemon Targaryen, eye patch man.
Aemon One
Who
Eye.
shout out to the actor for
He's been
also
so
sticking
great.
with the eye patch in the post show little documentary
He
vignette.
did.
Like,
They keep them fresh off set. Hey, look, we got to do the post episode thing. You like, hey, come on.
no, I think this dude is straight up method. He does not have another eye. It's gone.
There's
This dude is about it.
sapphire there.
Yeah. So we get that dragon fight. I do think as a finale capper, to be honest, I was a little underwhelmed by the fight. One, because I don't really know who Rhaenyra's young boy is. Like, I know he's gonna die. I'm like, whatever. And because I mean, a throwback to Wes, right, who asked for less dragons. I do think the dragon part kind of didn't have the crazy impact of that Game of Thrones violence normally has, where it's like, oh my god, somebody's throat got slit and they have a baby in their belly. Like, it was a very different feeling when it's okay, dragon chomp, like you're dead, and then seeing them also chase each other in basically a CGI world, where to me it felt and looked like Harry Potter for 10
it was
minutes.
such a Quidditch match.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
like he was even wearing
Are y'all saying that in a
cape
negative
and
way?
robes.
Negative way either.
And yeah, it's fun and it's cool, but it's for Game of Thrones, it didn't hit quite as hard as you'd hope it would be. Right? It would be very different if
I kind of disagree.
Aemon like crashed his dragon and they both fell to the ground, and then they were just like human on human, with blades duking it out, or Aemon doing, anything that was devious that resulted in a blade like that. I think that would have a very different visceral effect than the one that we got. So, kudos to the show for taking us there and spending the budget. Yeah, like it was a cool choreographed scene. But that part kind of left me wanting more.
I think I mean, I definitely think we don't need as much dragons as we've been getting. I know the show is called House of the Dragon.
You're getting more dragons.
Yeah, but
a lot more dragons.
You're getting a lot.
Damon counted them out for us.
They counted them out to let y'all at home know, like, hey, just giving
there's
you
a
an
lot
idea
of dragons on the board.
Like, there's a lot of dragons at play, and again, at
He's
the beginning
also,
of Game of
singing
Thrones,
to dragons,
and the beginning of Game of Thrones, there are no dragons, so this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. Brian, try and turn your mic down just a little bit. It looks like it's a little bit hot. So, okay,
I'm
so
hot, Wes, I'm hot.
He's sizzling. The dragon chase was tense, I think, in the same way that like Harry Potter is. They changed the music up so that that like there's something ominous coming and that there's clear and present danger for Lucerys here, for Luke. And the only way I disagree in this with Brian, I think that would have been great if it played out the way Brian said, where they knocked him down or they ended up on a beach somewhere and then they had to duke it out, and clearly Aemon would have the size advantage there. But the shocking part, or like maybe the gruesome part, was they're building up. They show that like Vhagar can disappear and come back, right? Like not literally, but he sort of can get out of vision and then come through the clouds and come at you. And so sort of what's coming, and you're not sure when it's going to happen. So there's all this like tension around, or suspense around, like, how is this going to end? How is he going to get out of this or not get out of this? And finally, just out of nowhere, right, Vhagar comes up and just chomps the little dragon. I'm not sure what his name is, Araxes or something like that. And it was a new kind of death in that you just see pieces of dragon falling out of the sky. And we haven't seen something like that before. And you're sort of caught in this, like, as a viewer, you're caught in this moment of, do I watch the pieces of dragon fall to the earth knowing that, like, some of those pieces might be a 14-year-old boy? Do I not look at those things? Do I try and see if there's, like, if the boy is, like, hanging on to Vhagar somehow, right? Like, you're just sort of caught in all these emotions, like, oh, did I just watch a 14-year-old boy just get chomped in one bite? Did he get torn to pieces? I don't know. I mean, like, So I do think there was a brutality in that, and it was such a suddenness with which it happened, that it was sort of different in a new way for the show. So I didn't mind that part of it so much. I think the hard-hitting punches of this specific episode is that Rhaenyra loses 2 kids.
Yeah.
And as parents on TV and parents in real life will, I'm sure, have, will say, like, losing a kid is just the gut punch that you never recover from, right? We know about this from real life. We know about this from movies. And she loses 2 kids, both the prematurely born child that's very disfigured and her own 14-year-old son, who she sends on this mission in this envoy within the span of, we don't know how many days, maybe 5, 10, maybe a month, something like that. Like, the amount of heartbreak and grief and whatever that must be going through Rhaenyra that's going to, like, kick off season 2 is just outrageous, right, in this. And so for the show to go with 2 deaths in different events for one mother is going to be something to behold, I think, for sure. And then the only other, like, maybe small criticism I would have had was, like, Aemond performs terrorism on Luke, who's obviously younger and smaller and not his equal physically. And then, for 10 minutes, for whatever length of time, they're chasing through the storm and through these, valleys and through, everything. And then he's sort of, like, shocked and remorseful that, like, the terrorism ends in death. And you're like,
well,
you're not.
What was
you're
he
not
trying to
8.
do?
Yeah, exactly. You're not 8 years old. You know what's going to happen. Not that you know, but, like, you are aware that, like, what you're doing is mortally dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know that you could be that, like, remorseful or shocked at the end there.
No,
but
He's
that's
riding the biggest weapon of mass destruction in the land.
Yeah. So that's why
what's going to happen?
So that's what I liked about the dragon chase. Like, I think what I really appreciate about
you're
that
doing
ending
terrorism.
sequence,
The point is to kill people or at least maim them.
Hold on.
He was shocked.
Hold on, because that's what makes it interesting, right? Because Aemon is 1,000% in the wrong. But what I enjoyed about that scene was them kind of, it's almost a callback to what Viserys said in the beginning of the show of, we have this illusion that we can control dragons. And what I really enjoyed is that, Daemon's thinking about, okay, we got dragons as weapons of war. We got to get ready for conflict. And then the episode ends with kind of demonstrating on both ends, right? Because Lucerys and Aemon both lost control of their dragons in the sense that, to your point, Brian, these dragons, yes, you're Targaryens, and that's what y'all sigil is, and y'all are dragon riders, and y'all got bonds, and that's cool and all, but they are still weapons of mass destruction, living beings that have agency. You could have the best trained dog in the world, but put your dog in a really dangerous and frustrating and stressful circumstance, and they're going to do things that are out of character, right? And so...
Or in character. I mean...
Yeah, or in. Which one I enjoyed. So I enjoyed that. This is kind
of what dragons can do.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Another takeaway I had, maybe this is more tinfoily, but I think the show, like, makes a pretty good point, is that dragon riders and their dragons do have, like, a bond that goes beyond the physical, right? Like, we've seen multiple times in this show that they clearly have a relationship that they're in sync with one another. And so another interpretation of the dragon scene was that I don't think Aemon was trying to kill Luke. He was absolutely trying to cut out his eye and terrorize him. And even though both are objectively awful, arguably war-starting things, there is a difference between trying to, like, terrorize somebody and cut their eye out and trying to just outright kill them. And say what you want, like, wasn't his intention, even though he was an idiot for that entire sequence. But another piece I enjoyed was you could interpret that the actions of the dragons were a reflection of their riders' intentions. Lucerys was on his dragon, freaked out, aggravated, in a storm, stressed out. Him and his dragon were on the same page, right, of just being nervous and him losing control. So some of it's losing control, but some of it's like, no, y'all actually kind of in sync, and this is how your dragon reacted to your emotions. And same with Aemon. Aemon might not have been trying to outright, one-shot murder him, because he could have done that anytime he wanted, but he has malicious intent, and they've established that, hey, your dragon can pick up on that as well and feed off of that. And, that's not unlike people's relationship with their actual pets, except if your pet was a multi-ton flying weapon of mass destruction. So I enjoyed that scene because, like, yes, Eamon was absolutely in the wrong, but it does add a little bit of a dimension of, this is like the high stakes version of when you're playing too rough with your sibling and someone gets hurt and you're like, oh shit. Granted, to look obviously higher stakes, but that was clearly the look on his face. And I appreciate that because he might not be likable, but he does clearly have some level of political savvy and self-awareness that in that moment he just completely threw out the window out of salt and revenge. So I don't know. It was like, yes, you're right, Wes, but I think there's other elements at play in that scene that made me not frustrated, but like, oh, this is really compelling and interesting because now how is he going to explain himself when he goes home to his people? How he has no alibi because regardless of whether, like, yeah, his dragon attacked him because the other dragon did attack him first and he lost control and all that's true, but everybody at Storms and saw you harassing that boy in cart trying to start a fight. Like, you've thrown away any plausible deniability you have, and I enjoy that because we've seen throughout this series how many moments where you could have almost avoided total war, and it's just like, ooh, you did just like, oh, those moments where this could have been avoided. We had Rhaenyra not trying to be bloodthirsty. We had the envoys. Maybe the dragon got away. Like, there was a bunch of moments, and it's like, oh, nope. But I like it because it makes this conflict that much more tragic because you just know as a viewer, there were moments that could have avoided all the heartbreak we're about to see in season 2.
Nope. Yeah, but Aemond. See, this
isn't me defending him. This is just me saying, like,
no, I'm not
there's
defending
other things
him.
at play that make the scene
This feels like
work.
inconsistent, like directing, though, in the way that it got played out. In that, like, in the past episodes, Aemond has been, he's not a loose cannon, right? Aemond has not been a loose cannon.
Every time his eye comes up, or his pride comes up, he absolutely becomes a loose cannon. Like, I would say, like, he was a loose cannon when he went to go steal and claim the girl's dragon after the funeral. He was a loose cannon.
And how he responded to it when they confronted him about it.
Yeah, and he responded. He was a loose cannon at the dinner with Viserys after he had left when he decides to make a toast specifically calling out his nephew's things being strong and then being completely ready to throw hands. Like, he's actually gone out of his way and antagonized people in a lot of situations.
I guess I'm thinking of, like, his statement that, like, the eye trade was fair. And it's like, dude, you got the biggest dragon in the land. And when he lost his eye, he's salty. And when he went to get his brother, right, where his brother was in hiding or had been kidnapped or whatever, he didn't do anything to the brother. He could have, like, punched him. He could have lost his cool with him and been like, you're whatever, right? But he was
nothing
like,
to do with his eye. It's when it has to do with his eye, and that is when he starts to act out of character.
And he wasn't called out about his eye at Storm's End. There was no provocation there.
Doesn't matter. That's the dude who did it. That's the provocation. The provocation is the dude who, if someone slammed out my eye, you ain't gotta bring it up. If I see you, it's on site.
I hear what you're saying. I think maybe they didn't make. I don't think they brought that up enough, or they made that clear enough. Like, the dude is way smaller than him. He's clearly more superior.
At Viserys' dinner, they had the pig, and the boys laughing at him when they brought the pig out because that's a callback to
but that wasn't what was happening here, right? And that he wasn't being made fun of. He was being treated, and Luke is portrayed in this one as the one who's more afraid. He's not trying to instigate something here. He's just literally trying to do what his mom asked him to do, and he's a little boy in this part. So
had beef.
Yeah, I mean, and then it just feels inconsistent to be like, I'm in a rage, and then to be like, oh no, like my cousin, like what did I do? It's like, yeah, I think in real life people would feel that way. I think in the show it just feels very jarring to be like, dude, 10 seconds ago, 5 seconds ago, you had a giant 20 kiloton, nuclear bomb go off, and you're riding it, and you knew what like could happen here, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I didn't mean for that to happen. It's like, you did though. Like, just be evil at that point. Like, it's okay. You can own that.
Just to clarify though, I believe Aemon is the uncle in this dynamic.
Yeah, he's his uncle.
It's like, there's my uncle.
No, 100%.
Who's the uncle? Which one's the uncle?
Aemon.
I do think it is. I think it is interesting though that Aemon does have a little bit more depth. Like, he's not just some vicious killer right off the bat. he definitely has certain principles that he's abiding by, and in a lot of ways, right? If
Is
you
he though? And
agree,
what are his
Yeah,
principles right
he
here
said
in this last
yeah,
episode?
like
his
kind of
principle
like
is
what Savon
revenge. Give me
said
the eye
about.
back. Cut out your eye. You're not gonna take. Like for him, he really is on some like
That was like
eye for an
10
eye.
years
No, 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 no,
ago.
no. I'm not talking about the principle of like an eye for an eye. I'm talking about the principle that like this guy is very disciplined. He knows
Mm-hmm.
that he's the second in line or whatever to his brother. But he trained himself to be a good fighter and warrior.
Mm-hmm.
He believed that he went out and got that dragon, whatever, and did what it took to do that. And as mentioned earlier, he was okay actually with losing the eye and getting the dragon as a result of it, right? Like to me, that says to me that this person does have some sort of baseline.
He got a
And
rabid
when
dog.
and as you said, when he went to go get his brother, it does feel very much like of the two brothers. If you were talking about which high tower should take the crown, it does seem like Aemon
Yeah.
is more fit
Right.
to be king, a certain type of king,
A certain type of king, yeah.
a ruthless king, but definitely, somebody more qualified, competent than
Exactly.
his older brother. So, he does have some shades. He's not just a vicious killer. But obviously, their two families with those kids have a lot of bad blood, and anytime they're in a room together, it seems like
He's
they are
tilted.
bound to egg each other on
He's tilted.
into violence. Even before he lost the eye, that was the dynamic, right? Everything they did with teasing him about the pig. And
Well,
all
even
of
his
that
older
stuff.
brother used to bully him. Even in that, Aegon
Yeah.
was a part of the bullying too. Like he was everybody's target, which is makes it even more interesting because now it's a family line divide. But at first, he was just bullied by the strong children and his own older brother. It's a he's a
I'll
lot
not
more
have
like
you
Damon than we're willing to
besmirch
admit.
their reputation, Savon. They're clearly Targaryen and Valerian.
Okay, yeah, the Valerian boys.
But I think regardless of how successful
If that's the case, I'm a
director was,
Nakamura. If they Valerians, then I'm a Nakamura. That's how I feel with it.
Honorary.
I mean, I see it. There's definitely some Japanese Hawaiian going on there.
Got that Viserys vision going on. You see it. You see what the hell you want to see.
I think you have the Nakamura nose, maybe the Nakamura ears,
Maybe the ears. Yeah.
No.
The Nakamura elbow.
Mm-hmm. No, but I think Aemon is a lot more like Daemon than we're wanting to admit. We just got Daemon a little sooner, but he's definitely more of
He's absolutely like Daemon.
He's definitely more of a chaotic gray character, which is, I don't know. We're just gonna get a full out war, and it's gonna be fun.
All right. So let's back out a little bit to the season at large. There's quite a few compelling characters in this show. Some of them get snuffed out. Some of them live on to see season 2. Would you say that you have an MVP or maybe a least valuable LVP for this season? Is there someone that you're rooting for? Is there someone that you're just completely just anti, like, nope, that person gotta go? Savon, where are you at on this?
This is like MVP and LVP together because I don't like this character, but I like how just like homie don't give a damn, and I gotta give it to Otto Hightower. I don't particularly like Otto, but man, that dude just does not give a damn. He had no qualms about the freshly grieving king. All right, cool, I'm gonna throw my daughter at him, and it works. And like, it's a plan that works like a charm. He has to create another son that he immediately is like, all right, cool. He said it himself. The moment that child was born, he was in his head like, man, F what Viserys gotta say, F what Rhaenyra gotta say, F what all these people gotta say. We putting homeboy on the throne, which again I don't approve of, but man, after Viserys dies and this man without even skipping a beat just reveals his secret plan, and even Alicent's like thrown off and tilted. I'm like, yo, this man is gangster. When he went to Dragonstone, this is the best line of the finale. That man went to Dragonstone and told Daemon and Rhaenyra, your kids get to be squires and cupbearers. I was like, yo, this dude's so out of pocket. My guy, how you going to usurp the throne, run up to these people, ancestral little place, say surrender and say, hey, your kids get to be cupbearers and hold the personal servant, basically, of the family who usurped them. I'm like, boy, you got some stones on you to just, like, there's not a lot of times where I agree with Damon just, like, flipping out. I was with Damon. I was like, hold on, bro, what? To Aegon? The drunken, just every bad trait, this man just got them all wrapped up in a bundle. Like, this guy? Aegon? Oh man, no, but Otto, man, that dude don't give a damn. He's great. It's fun to root against him because he's just so calm and he's such a dick. But
so you can hold my ball sack if you like.
Yeah.
He just does not care, and I like when but also he made good points of like early when he was like, yo, this can lead to a civil war, but it's like, yeah.
That I'm going to cause.
Because of you, yes. This will cause war. I'm like, you can't say it'll cause war if it's part of your plan to do that thing. Like, stop acting like this is a consequence of other people's actions. No, this is a decision you're consciously choosing to make. You could very much not do this thing. And you're like, nah, I'm going to do this thing. So
nah, he's not. He's not about that life.
Otto, in terms of just the full spectrum of... But also MVP of characters I like Corliss, because he's also just been... I'm glad that he did right by Rhaenys, his wife, because she was right. His ambition cost their family everything. And despite multiple L's that I personally would have struggled to forgive, you know, like, oh man, Daemon, you killed my brother. These children ain't even my blood. There's a lot of reasons I would... He'd be a better man than me. But shout out to him for recognizing his
son
L.
got killed, or he thinks his son got killed.
Yeah, by them.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, oh, he has very good reason to be like, yo, man, F these
very
people.
Good reasons. Yeah.
But respect to him for doing right by his wife and recognizing that Rhaenyra actually can be a good leader, and him, you know, recognizing the bigger picture. So shout out to him for that. Shout out to the Sea Snake.
Still not going to end well, I don't think.
Oh, no, this is...
Oh, yeah.
This is a Shakespearean tragedy. There's no winners here.
Regret.
My least valuable player of this season is Russell Westbrook. For just we're not doing it.
If he was riding Vagar, he would have missed it. Luke would have been good.
So this is like MVP plummeting to LVP situation if it's a Russell Westbrook analogy.
Oh man, Russell Westbrook has been so bad this year, guys. He's got to go to a different team. I'm sorry. All right, that's my Lakers thing. So least valuable
the house
player,
of Laker.
Luke Targaryen.
Is a Valerian.
I hate to speak ill of the dead. Spoiler alert to those of you who haven't seen the episode. Luke is just too soft. I hate to say it. Like, what a cool kid, great kid. Exists in the wrong family in the wrong time. This bro is too soft. He's the least valuable player. He didn't accomplish anything. He didn't get anything done. He contributed nothing, man.
Well, he was also a little outmatched, though, man. He
was outmatched for sure.
Like he outran a big dragon. He did a decent job.
Oh, I'm not even talking about just the last. I mean, he was just, I don't want to be. Yeah, I don't want to be King of Driftmark or whatever they called the Lord of Driftmark. He didn't want to do anything. He just wanted everybody to survive and them to go live in the happy place. And like, man, you on the wrong show for that.
Hey, he did
do the wrong genre, man.
He did do one thing nice, though.
He
did do one thing nice.
What did he do?
When they were kids, he defended his betrothed, and because he slashed out Aemon's eye. You know, he was trying to defend his girl Anna when he was trying to steal their mama dragon at the wake of her funeral. I think that's, I agree with you. I don't disagree with your assessment, but I want to give him, I want to give him his props as well as his L's too.
I mean, he was always getting.
So that's the plummet. Then. Like that was his high point, and he just
that was like episode 4.
He peaked when he slashed out Aemon's eye, and the resulting salt from that led to L's on end. Because even when they got in a fight at the dinner, right, them two boys got their asses whooped. They got provoked. How you go to town to your cousin's crib for dinner? They call you out. You try to fight them, and then they beat your ass.
I mean,
then your stepdad / uncle gotta come and be like, hey, man.
Yeah, they got to recognize, like,
we out.
That's not how you play it.
His brother,
you got to bring your boys.
Even the training sessions, right, when they were in King's Landing, he was always right, actually.
His brother beat him up in the last couple episodes. Like, he LVP, man. Least valuable player here on the board.
Wrong show.
I think MVP, I don't really have an MVP here. I mean, like, I guess I'd go with Aemond. He's like prime James Harden. I hate his game. but you got to recognize he's kind of been dominant when he's had the ball in his court. Like he's made the plays that he's supposed to make. Like I don't know. I
but
hate
then
to,
he
I hate
J.R.
to.
Smith the finals because I'm like, yo, B, you
No,
killing
but I
him,
mean,
just
he
effed up so much.
in some ways this is like good for his family. He takes another dragon off the board, right? We were counting dragons. He takes one off the board. And
He
he's got the
plunged
biggest
around
dragon
into
on his
Civil
team.
War.
Like he's right now the Kevin Durant of this family. He's got the biggest dragon, the ballerist dragon. Like he can control like two double teams. I'm sure when they go to the sky, like he's gonna be he's already a force to be reckoned with, and he just continues to like put up dubs on Rhaenyra's family. So I mean, I guess he's the MVP here, even though he kind of sucks. But
Yeah,
I mean, and actually,
sorta.
as an actor, though, I think he's been doing a great job. Like the actor has been bringing it. You
His
kind of
facial
understand,
expressions are
except for
top notch.
except for the last season. But everything else has been great. Like the sneer, the way he's using the eye patch, the way he like takes it off to reveal the sapphire, like all the expressions that he's doing. Like he's probably one of the best actors, at least among the like younger cast that we've seen. So I mean, mad respect to the actor. I don't know, who he is, but good job there. But yeah, I mean, also he kind of sucks just as a character. So I don't know. Brian, where are you going? MVP, LVP here?
So MVPs for this show is pretty hard. There are a lot of unlikable characters. You don't really know
Doesn't gotta be
exactly
likable.
who to root
Yeah.
for and whatever. So
Yeah, I give
I mean,
Otto
I gotta
something, bro.
skip over to and go just straight LVP, and there's like an LVP team, which is
You got a starting five.
which is like Queen Allison and her cadre of toxic men. Like,
Oh man, that's
like
true.
the
Good point.
main LVP in that group is actually Sir Kristen, and you're just like, dude, get over it, man. Like, what is wrong with
Yeah.
you? And
I
like
was
him
in his camp early
accidentally
on.
killing the guy
That wasn't an accident.
in the council. I mean, like sitting the dude down and like, come on, man. He's just like this sick little attack dog, giving too much leash or no leash at all, and and just doing his brand of incel tyranny all over King's Landing. Like it's just gross. And then she's also in consort with that other dude.
What a scene! Yeah,
with the bum
Laris.
My brain, like
Laris, who has a bad foot but is into nice feet. Like, oh, like, geez, like I don't like any of that.
What is
stuff.
going on in King's Landing?
So many lows here. Like they're just like going lower and lower. It's like, oh my god, he's taking off the socks. Like, oh my god, his hand is in his pants. Like this dude is some guy on the New York City subway brought to King's Landing. Like so unnecessary. And Allison is just like, well, I'm gonna keep you guys close because you do evil stuff for me. Like, oh man, it's all kinds of bad. It's all kinds of bad. And
Good.
just,
Good pull, Brian.
yeah, you hate to see it.
All right. How did this season line up for you compared to thinking back, whatever, 8 years ago? No, more than that, probably 10 or 20, 12 years ago now at this point, to season 1 of Game of Thrones. For me, Game of Thrones has a clear advantage. One, it was the first sort of show that we had seen of this type, where it was at all times brutal, it was political, it was conniving, it was dark, and in some ways hopeful, right? It had a huge production value. Even in that first season, I'm sure it wasn't the production value it had towards the end, but you got these great scenes, these landscapes, these set pieces that were all there in season 1. Episode 1, I think, or episode 2, Jaime Lannister yeets a child off of like a building, and you're like, oh my god, like what just like audiences hadn't seen that before. I had never seen something like that before in a normal show. I mean, it maybe in like a psychopath show, but this was not that. This was just a normal show, and one of the things they did was throw a child off a building without remorse and just be like, yeah, I did that. That was kind of, hey, but like that's the the name of the game here. The mystery of the White Walkers was something that layered into that first season and was a thread throughout the show. The dialogue in this show sometimes felt distracting. Their use of grandsire a lot was just like, like, are they trying to be medieval? They used like mine own father a lot. They used like in the last episode, Rhaenyra says like, not but by my command. And it just sort of felt like every now and then they would throw in these phrases of Shakespearean, like medieval times, but it wasn't in all of the show. And I don't know. I mean, there was just
what
sort
is
of
this
this like,
criticism?
it
The
was just
medieval show
They
using medieval
They
language?
definitely
but
talk like that in the other stuff too, Wes.
it didn't feel so distracting in Game of Thrones, I thought.
I mean,
It didn't feel consistent, right? In some of the ways, like, and
I don't
like
know. I don't
they
think I want to
used
say right to that. No.
Lords,
to me it
bending
wasn't
the knee, like all of it. I mean,
that
come on.
that felt fine.
They
'cause
literally for ages they say 10 and whatever, they have that weird age convention. Like they've been had all that weird stuff.
yeah, no, that part was fine. I think there was just some things that just like
you just
didn't
hate the
feel-
honorifics.
Maybe, I don't know. It just didn't feel like they fit in with like the way they were doing it, and like they would scream like "fuck," right, which is like clearly not of that world, but like in this world now. I don't know. Zero likable people who take center stage in the season one. I'm a guy who likes to have at least one or two likable people in a show. That didn't happen here. Nobody's really that likable in this show. So it's just a bunch of a-holes running around here in this one, which like maybe that's kind of what we're in terms of this era of television. It's like the Breaking Bad sort of set that norm, in the interim. But so for me, Game of Thrones was 1,000% takes the cake here. I don't think it's 1,000% better. Just if I was choosing one or the other, Game of Thrones to me felt newer, deeper, more interesting, and certainly seemed like it was more well put together. But what did you guys think on that one? Savon, you're clearly puzzled by my reaction to it.
Yeah, that first part, I just hope other viewers at home, listeners at home, are also making the same faces like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Grandsire.
Show
me one
Wes
instance
strikes
where they
again.
used Grandsire in Game of Thrones.
Well, I mean, I can tell you now, I read book one. Book one is almost like a complete, they
And he called
transcribed
himself
entire
Grandsire.
stuff. They transcribe, I'm not doing that with you.
Thank
Your,
you.
your grandsire wants.
Yeah, I'm
don't
not feeding
acknowledge
the
it.
troll. Not feeding
Yeah.
the troll. Anyways, I had to go back and look at what happens in season one of Game of Thrones because it's easy to kind of have it all blend together.
For
And I don't
sure.
want to unfairly attribute things that haven't happened yet. As both as season one setups, I actually might like House of the Dragon more. One, House of the Dragon, I said this in the beginning, is because it's such a tighter, smaller story, there's not as many, for me, characters and plot lines that I just don't care about. And as much as I loved Game of Thrones, there were multiple plot lines and stories where I'm just like, oh, if I don't care about this, it doesn't connect to any other stuff. And it just feels like, oh, this is just wasted time. Like there were times where I didn't really care about Daenerys' story. And in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't because it doesn't really amount to anything in the bigger picture of stuff. But that was something that kind of took away from season one for me. But otherwise, I had to look at what happens in season one. There isn't actually any war that happens in season one either. It's entirely just like there's some fights, but it's mostly setup.
Mm-hmm.
And so both seasons end with Westeros on the precipice of war. So I kind of looked at it like, okay, so how did we get to that point? And I actually think I enjoyed the 20-year story setup of this war happening than some of the stuff that happened in Game of Thrones season one, because some of those things didn't actually matter in the war that was happening, right? Like Game of Thrones is about the War of the Five Kings happening in Westeros, but all the White Walker, Beyond the Wall, and Daenerys stuff pretty much has nothing to do with that. And so in hindsight, you realize, oh, a lot of this actually doesn't really have to do with some of the main story. And I'm appreciating House of the Dragon more because even characters I don't like, they all tie into the main conflict. So everything feels super relevant at all times. Even as a Game of Thrones lover, there were a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I don't care about this story. It doesn't tie what I'm interested in. I check out. Like how many people didn't know anything about really Stannis Baratheon because there's so much going on that it's easy to just check out when you're at the angry, non-charismatic guy in the dark castle, you know?
Yeah,
I don't
but
think
all
House of the Dragon suffered from that same issue.
That stuff comes back in later seasons.
Yeah,
so I'm okay
I'm
with
comparing
that.
season one to one. That's why I'm comparing them just by the first season. Like some of the things we're talking about with House of the Dragon.
You knew those things were important. The White Walkers were clearly important. The like Daenerys' story was clearly important, and she wasn't in Westeros yet, but like she still had some crazy things happening in her life. Right, her brother was clearly like a psychopath.
And that's down. Yeah, and I'm saying that's down the line, but that's why I'm just looking at it in just from what we've gotten in season
Yeah.
one.
No,
And
I am
just
too.
looking at each of those season one of those shows, and also I say this knowing that I know what some of the outcomes are going to be for both, but in either case, I still appreciated what House of the Dragon did more. Like, I think the 20-year
Yeah.
setup conflict was
That was cool.
ultimately a better setup to a war than Game of Thrones season one, which the war that happens, a lot of stuff happens that still doesn't actually tie to that. For this, everything has to do with this war that's about to pop off. There's not a
Yeah.
scene in this first season that doesn't ultimately tie into this war. And I
Different
thought that
approach.
worked better. It felt more targeted and concise. That's not a knock on Thrones, because they also, keep in mind, House of the Dragon got to learn from everything that Thrones did wrong. So there is an element of like, who they got to build off of something rather than Thrones, which had to do something completely new television wise. So it's not a knock on Thrones, but House of the Dragon learned from what Thrones did wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a blessing and a curse for House of the Dragon, right? Like, they
Mm-hmm.
can sort of like correct things. As you said, the story gets a lot tighter in this, but they also have to deal with what Wes is talking about, in that they're living in the shadow of Game of Thrones, which
Mm-hmm.
was already incredible. And so to, try to do things differently and not have the luxury of things being novel, it is a challenge for the show, and I feel like I felt it during season one. It's like, well, yeah, this is great and stuff, but I feel like the original was still delivered a little bit more, and you're left wanting. Like, this kind of goes back to my whole criticism of the dragon fight. It's like you come to House of the Dragons with a lot more expectations, and I think that can actually hurt the show a little bit. But overall, I think it's a solid show for sure. But because they're trying to make it tighter, and because it is so focused around the family succession, particularly in this season one, right? I think seasons 2 through 4 are going to be very different for House of the Dragon, right? As they
This
plunge
is
all of
all set up,
Westeros
dude.
into a war, right? So we're gonna get a much richer, more dynamic story. But I think in season 1, the fact that it is so focused on the line of succession and the internal family dynamics and drama, that for me, honestly made me check out a little bit. Whereas, Game of Thrones season 1, you got tons of stuff on the board. You know that all those things are going to come to a head. You hear about so many different parties who are vying for the Iron Throne, and just the title Game of Thrones comes into full relief in that regard, because you're like, yes, this is a full-on political game that is happening, and you're watching that unfold, regardless of whether you're in King's Landing, you're at the Wall, or you're far off on the other
Winterfell.
side of the Narrow Sea.
Oh,
With
yeah.
Daenerys, like, that she's gonna come try to claim that throne, and so everybody is making a power grab.
Well, in season
essentially.
1, you think it's Viserys actually that's going to try and grab the throne, right? For a long time. He's the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
that wants to take the play.
You didn't even mention, Wes, in season 1, right? Like, you get Ned Stark's death, you get a kid getting pushed off of a tower. He also, there's another assassination attempt in season 1 on him, and you also get Daenerys and her whole storyline with Khal Drogo, and Khal Drogo giving Viserys his golden crown that he so wants, right? like that in and of itself is nuts. And I do think at the end of season 1, you also get baby dragons.
Yeah, at the very, very end.
And Daenerys, being able to endure fire and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just so many jaw-dropping moments in season 1 of Game of Thrones, and they have the benefit of novelty, right? We had never seen this stuff before. So all those moments just hit so much deeper for me that unfortunately,
it was also the
I
show.
think it casts a
talked
long
about
shadow.
it. Everybody was watching this show.
Yeah,
there was no one missing this show.
Mm-hmm. You know what the thing with Thrones is going to be, and I think this House of Dragons is going to hit a similar stride, because some of this, I think Thrones season 1 looks better in hindsight, which is good. This isn't a knock. I think Thrones actually really hit its stride came seasons 2 and 3, because that's when you have, the Blackwater, the Battle of the Blackwater, you have the Red Wedding, you have Joffrey's wedding. I think those are actually some of the most iconic Thrones moments. But that you had to get that season 1 setup to get the pieces in place. All that to say, I really think that season 2 of House of the Dragon is going to be great because the writers really say, hey, yo, the first season is just going to be 20 years of build up. And so they know that some people don't want to see just the boring political, not war stuff. But now, same with Thrones. Like the best book was the second book because it's just an all out war the entire book. And that, again, that's some of peak Game of Thrones. I think House of the Dragon is going to hit a very similar stride where now a lot of the big payoffs and set pieces, some of which we're expecting, some maybe we weren't expecting, are going to happen. But you just had to get the board set up first. So either way, I think both shows do good jobs of using their opening season to just make you care about people and get the pieces in play. Granted, they do it in different ways and the size of the board might be different. But either way, once the ball gets rolling, I think we're going to be in for some top tier television season 2.
So roll that into your reaction or your take on season 1. How does that? What are you like expecting or hoping for then from the rest of the series? It sounds like you think this is like the first of like a really high stepping stone, and now they're just going to catapult into a great season 2. Is that sort of where you see this going? And you've read the book? Is that what I'm?
Yeah, I've read the book. I haven't reread it long enough to where I remember everything, and I made a choice to not reread it because I want to like.
They've made some small differences, I've heard.
Yeah, that's that one difference is in the books because again the books are like a fictional history book, so it's like what the historians at the time thought happened. How they talk about the Aemon Lucerys thing is a little different. Like it's treated like no one was there as an eyewitness, so you don't know that actually Lucerys' dragon blew fire because it was freaked out at his, and then it was kind of like there's more gray to it. In the books, it's just straight up, he just went out and murdered him, but no one saw what happened, so you don't get that behind the scenes of, this is what happened. Or in the books, Laenor is dead. There is no, he faked his death because, the historical records would suggest otherwise. So I don't remember. I remember some key things, but like a lot of the stuff I've forgotten. Either way, for any show or movie or production, if you're going to have a big, large-scale war, you have to care about the characters. And so I think the writers knew, hey, we're going to have this big war with all these dragons and people. You got to give a damn about who's riding the dragons and who's beefing. Otherwise, it's just empty deaths. And, people might have different feelings on how much they care about different characters, but I think they've done a good job of painting pictures for all the movers and actors in this war that we're about to have. And so when people do start inevitably dying and dropping and however it happens, I think we as an audience are going to be like, oh, damn, that was tragic. Partially because, they used the whole season to make us care about them. Some of these characters, we watched them be born and grow up and become young adults. And, I think that that gives you a certain level of investment.
Brian?
Yeah, I think the setup for seasons 2 through 4, at least from what I've read, there's going to be 4 seasons.
Okay.
We're gonna get a great war, right? Obviously, we got a lot of dragons, a lot of special effects. There's going to be more Harry Potter writing. I'm hopeful that a Dementor shows up at some point. So I think that's that's ripe for just delightful action and spectacle, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm hoping is that they actually don't quite deliver that the way that it seems like they're going to, and that they do keep things a little bit more grounded in some ways, right? Like we do want to see the conflict between Rhaenyra and Alicent in some shape or form, right? Not just their proxies all the time. We want these. To Savon's point, right? Like we care about these characters. We've been with them now their entire lives, right? We want to see them in the same room with each other. And one thing that I hope that the show remembers is that the bread and butter of the Game of Thrones franchise is really the war of words, right? It's when the tongues have daggers, and I think that's where the show and the franchise is at its best. Another thing that I'm concerned with, though, is that how season 1 of House of the Dragon was mostly spearheaded by the director Miguel Sapochnik, who's famous for doing a lot of the big battle episodes of Game of Thrones. I think he did the big White Walker battle episode. I think he did the Battle of the Bastards episode. Right? He did most of season 1 of House of the Dragon. But he has already declared that he's stepping aside from the franchise because he is wiped out.
Burned out. Makes
So
sense.
there's a question about like who's gonna, or I do believe they have a new showrunner already tagged on, and whether or not that person is able to hold the torch is another lingering question. How's the series going to change as a result? Will it be able to maintain its high watermark throughout? We'll see.
Sounds good. So, season 1, House of the Dragon. It's a wrap. One of the most compelling television shows I think of this year by far. It's certainly
We'll see. White Lotus is coming out. The White Lotus might dethrone it.
Maybe, but the reach of this show is massive. I mean, it's not as big as Game of Thrones.
People watching it though, bro.
Yeah, but there's a ton of people watching this show. So kudos to them for putting on a show that held people's attention for all 10 episodes and didn't, despite not having the newness, despite not having the like holy cow surprise factor that Game of Thrones came in with, they still managed to keep people watching the show. And I certainly every week wanted to tune into it. This is probably the one show this summer or this late summer that I would not like. I would be looking forward to, and it was the one I made the choice to watch first of all the shows that we've been trying to keep up with. So I think good on them for producing a pretty compelling, interesting show. Yeah, Savon.
Yeah, super quick thing. This is just me on my soapbox before we end the episode. This is why it's dope to have weekly releases for shows.
Yeah.
You got to build hype, anticipation, water cooler talk. Shout out to the homies Daphne and Willow, because we just had a whole group of homies of mine. We just had a group chat where every Sunday night we're like, hey, y'all, we hopping on? Yeah, we all talking. We all live chatting, texting in our group chat about live
sending
things happening.
the eye emojis.
Damon sending face reactions of like, when he pulled up in Vegas at the place, we sending reactions of our face like, oh, shit, it's going down. And that kept us entertained for like 2.5, 3 months.
Oh, for sure.
Season 2, I'm gonna need some watch parties.
Yeah, like this is a watch. Yeah, this is a watch party type show. So I'm like, look, it's nice to binge stuff, but like, y'all, imagine if we had this for Squid Game, where every week you just hyped up waiting instead of all at once.
Oh my god, people would lose their minds.
Yeah, so come on. Yeah, man, I just love this was just a quality viewing, appointment viewing show. I love those. It was good. It was. Now, I can't wait for more in 2 years.
Yeah, we're gonna do our own time jump.
Kai gonna be a guest on the show by the time season 2 come out.
She's like, I didn't really like season 1.
Oh, she's gonna be, oh god, mini Wes.
Too many. Mine owns. All right, y'all. Hit us up on @confidently_pod on Instagram. Savon's been running the account, putting up some great questions. We've been getting some cool responses. We'd love to hear more from you about it. And also tell your friends. This has been a great show. This has been a fun time. Friends, we're out of here. Have a good one. Bye.